When I was a kid, my dad took me to the movies to see a film that changed my life. I absolutely loved that movie. But one thing always baffled me about it. How did they get the cameras out in space to film the spaceships? As I grew up, I discovered that there was an entire industry full of people whose job it was to create movies. I used to soak up every piece of information and material I could get my hands on. It didn't take long for me to decide that this was what I wanted to do with my life. There was just one problem. Movies were made here, while I was over here. I couldn't see any way around that, so I put that dream on the shelf for a very long time. Many years later, I read a book called If Chins Could Kill: Confessions of a B-Grade Movie Actor, written by cult actor Bruce Campbell. Because of that book and some subsequent research, I discovered a collection of filmmakers who really inspired me and allowed me to take that dream back off the shelf and dust it off. These are not necessarily my favourite filmmakers, nor are their works some of my favourite films, but there is a uniqueness to their stories that struck a chord with me. Director Sam Raimi, who was responsible for the highly successful Spider-Man trilogy, grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. His childhood and teen years were spent making short Super 8 films with his friends, including actor Bruce Campbell. In 1979, along with their new friend Rob Tappert, they set out to take their short filmmaking to the next level by shooting a feature. After conducting many hours of research at the local drive-in, they decided on a horror movie for their first film.
Because we had sat in on a lot of drive-in movies and a lot of cheap horror theaters in Detroit during shows, and sometimes, most of the time, we would watch films and they didn't deliver enough. That's what we felt. So we wanted to make one that would really knock them with a punch.
The film, originally titled Book of the Dead, would eventually become the cult classic Evil Dead. The trio utilised what, at the time, was a very unique way of selling the film.
We shot a Super 8 movie to use as a pilot to show the investors. So we'd go over to their house. One time there was a group of dentists who, they're always pooling the money. Dentists are great. Get money from dentists, by the way. So they'd have a dinner party with 4 dentists and their wives, and we'd show them this completely gross... Oh, my God. And they would invest. And one guy invested... we had one guy who gave us money because he didn't go to Vegas that year. Oh. He says, I usually take $2 grand and blow it in Vegas. Well, here's my Vegas money. So he's since made 17 times his money, so he was happy about that.
The movie was shot over a period of about 1.5 years, the principal of the film being shot in an abandoned cabin outside of Morristown, Tennessee. Raimi used what eventually became known as fake shemps, or stand-ins, to replace the actors who had left over time. All of Evil Dead's investors made back their money after 7 years. Bad Taste was released in 1987. Bastard! It was produced, edited, photographed, written, directed, and starred Peter Jackson. He also created all of the special effects, creature designs, and makeup effects on the film. Much of the film was shot in and around Peter Jackson's hometown of Pukura Bay, north of Wellington, New Zealand.
90% of Bad Taste was shot on a Bolex. They're very, very basic. You put the film in this side, and then it's like a spring-loaded motor. You've got to wind it up, and it gives you about 30 seconds worth of shooting.
Originally begun as a short film, Bad Taste was shot primarily on weekends over the course of 4 years, at a total cost of around $25,000. Peter was at such a loss for actors in the film that not only did he use friends he worked with in the main roles, he wound up playing 2 separate roles himself. Toward the end of the shoot, the New Zealand Film Commission invested around $235,000 into the film to ensure its completion. The film was picked up for international distribution after winning the coveted Gore Award at the Cannes Film Festival. The Making of El Mariachi, Robert Rodriguez's debut film, has become the stuff of Hollywood legend. The entire film was shot for a budget of only $7,000. To raise the money to shoot the film, Robert subjected himself to a month-long drug testing program, basically to be used as a human guinea pig. The film was shot in numerous locations in Acuna, Coahuila, located in northeastern Mexico, the hometown of the film's star. To accomplish the film for the minuscule budget, Robert created many cost-saving techniques.
First of all, I shot this movie silent. What that allowed me to do actually was save a lot of film because I didn't have any film slates. I didn't have any sync slates. In fact, the only indication we had to put on the roll at all was at the head of it to show what roll we were on. And this is roll 15. You can see I just had the actors hold their fingers up. After that, there's no slates. Okay, this is how you get 5 shots in one take. Basically, I shoot his first line of dialogue here in the wide. Then I zoom in for his second line, which is a little more threatening. Zoom back out to get this wide shot of the guitar case going up. And I'm doing this because I wanted to make it look like I've shot this all day with different lens sizes. I go back to a medium close-up and then punch in for a tighter shot for his last big threat, then whip back out again for him opening the case. Now, I know those zooms are very jarring, but they're basically just repositions. I always plan to cut away to the other guy's reaction during the zoom.
To this day, he is known for his ability to create large budget-looking films for a lower cost. The film was shot on 16mm film and transferred to video for editing. The original intent for the film was to be sold to the Mexican direct-to-video market, but executives at Paramount Films liked it so much, they decided to distribute the film as it is. During the DVD commentary, Rodriguez jokes that the Paramount opening logo costs more than his entire film. These filmmakers I have just showcased all have one thing in common. They all made it into the film industry on their own terms. None of them went to film school, had famous families, knew anyone in the industry, or had some sort of in that they could exploit. They all managed to make their way in through a little creativity, a little determination, and a lot of hard work. It brings me to the story of Edward D. Wood Jr., known to the world as Ed Wood. He was a man whose sole desire was to make movies. His drive and his passion carried him forward and allowed him to achieve that dream. He let nothing stand in his way. Not his lack of money, not his lack of connections and resources, and definitely not his complete and total lack of any sort of discernible talent. Ed Wood was a filmmaker because he made himself one. And as these creators have shown us, there is nothing stopping any of us from doing the same.